Okay. Welcome everybody to the general meeting for koha-US. This is our February meeting. Jason has posted the link to the agenda in the chat, and we will just get started. Let's see, we've got announcements. So we have an ALA update. John has been talking with them because we have for the last 2 years, we have requested a table there. ALA is going virtual again this coming year. At the time we talked last week, there weren't a lot of details about how this was all going to work because you know, the previous 2 years was in Chicago. So, you know, rolling the money over and all that kind of stuff was pretty straightforward because all the prices would be the same and everything. This coming year, it's theoretically was supposed to be in DC. The next one is supposed to be in DC. So we're not sure whether we can roll money over because if it's going to be the same price and all that kind of stuff. So basically, the news is ALA is going to be virtual again this year. They announced it, I guess, the week after midwinter. So that's there. Then we have that information. Then we also have a call for koha-thon presentations. I don't know if George, you want to say anything more about that?
So far, we have zero.
Zero. Okay,
we have zero interest in koha-thon.
Okay. So what is the turn it in by this date kind of thing?
I put a late date on it. I think it was March 1st.
Okay.
So there's still time, and that was what I was going to say at this meeting is, you know, if we want to do it, we need to get some people that are going to commit to doing something. You know, last time I did 3 presentations, and it seems like we had a couple of good roundtables, and Christopher did a presentation and Todd did a presentation, and it was kind of all the usual suspects. And that's kind of part of the thing is that it seems to be the same people. And my phone's ringing, and it's actually for me for the first time in like months.
Okay. Yeah. So if you are interested in a topic, or you feel like you discovered something about a topic, or someone in your library, because with koha-thon, there's no travel involved. You can record the presentation ahead of time if you think you'll get nervous. There's lots of different options for this. You know, if we could cover you know, a wide variety of topics, that would help draw people into listening to koha-thon. Part of koha-thon, of course, is a fundraising thing, educational as well as fundraising. And the funds will go toward new developments for koha. So it's a good thing for all the libraries. Talk with, you know, your people. See if somebody's interested in a presentation, if we can get something, you know, for the front end and for the cataloging and acquisitions and system preferences, and, you know, we can get a variety of presentations. And don't assume that what you know everybody else knows. Sometimes it's just how your library does it that's fascinating to people. You know, because koha is so flexible, different libraries can come at the same problem in different ways. And so it's kind of fun to see how different libraries have solved different workflows and things like that. So strongly encourage you to think about it. If you've never done it before, I am here to say that you will live. I did a live presentation for the first time ever at a koha conference, and I'm still standing to tell you that I survived. So it
Me
will
too.
be, yay. Yeah. It's a great group of people to dip your toe into the water of presentations, because everybody is so kind and generous. So, and, you know, we can all learn in this kind of format. You know, we can chat back and forth and learn all kinds of stuff. So if there's a topic that you're interested in, you know, that we could do a roundtable around, that's great information. Put that out there. Or if there's something that you want. And the other thing is, if you've worked with another library on something, you know, pooling resources so that you can work together is a great thing. So I will get off my soapbox now.
Rhonda,
Yes.
since we haven't had any proposals yet, should we send the form out again as kind of a tickler?
Yeah, we could do that. We'll get, when we see George again, we'll ask him to do that. That's a good idea. Only so many days left. Okay. And John, I already talked about the ALA update, but basically saying that it's going virtual again next year. Was there anything else, you know, and that we don't know? At the time we talked last week, we didn't know about the rollovers or anything like that. I don't know.
We actually got an email late yesterday afternoon from the exhibition company. You are not permitted to roll over the 2020, now 2021 to 2022. We've been given the option to put forward the $1,200 we've paid towards the virtual 2021 space. There are several different options to do that with, or we have the option of requesting a full refund. Based on what I can see and based on how we as a group exist, it's going to be my recommendation to the board that we seek a full refund. But we don't have nearly as much time as one would have expected to make a decision like this. They want an answer by February 19th. And so I will be sending the board the message that I got along with the possible virtual options, none of which are too particularly appealing to us. Again, given what it is, we don't sell products. Really, the big things that we were hoping to do at the exhibition hall are really not going to be possible. That's my opinion, but I want the board to be able to express their own opinions. So the board will be getting the message that I got, which includes several different links, like one to a decision, one to a big table that shows you all the various options, and that will be forwarded along very shortly.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
At the Medical Library Association conference last year, and if you saw the latest adventure of the Avenging Chicken, see, I had some screenshots. What they had was vendors sitting at their desks wherever they were, and you just get the opportunity to go into their Zoom room and talk with them. My impression is that it did not go very well. Most of the time, I was the first person they talked to all day. And I think once there was more than one person. That's all. And I agree, John, it just wouldn't be, even if you could do a good demo, it wouldn't, there was not as much interest as there would have been at a live exhibition.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, it just occurred to me that we're sort of new into the year, and maybe we need to, just for the general meeting, to introduce the board. We keep referring to the board. And so I'm just gonna kind of point everybody out. My name's Rhonda Kuiper. I am the current president. Barbara Johnson is the vice president, and Jason Robb is the secretary. John Sturbins is the financial manager / treasurer. And then Bob is a customer at large supported. Oh, there she is. Okay. Elaine is customer at large unsupported. So that's the 6 people on the board. Just so that everybody knows who to talk to or who they are talking to when you contact a board member. You can send emails to info@koha-US.org, and that will get to the board members if you just have a general question about koha-US. Okay, little aside there. Next on the agenda is the website, and I will let Jason talk about that.
So I just wanted to share a couple of the recent updates to the website. So let me share my screen. All right, is everybody seeing the koha-US website?
Yes.
Okay, so I've been trying to kind of bring us up to speed a little bit on some things under the About section under Administration. I haven't talked to John about this, but I did go ahead and put up the finances page we talked about. So if you want to access our old budgets, our old monthly reports, it's more organized and accessible there. And that just links out to our organizational Google Drive where those things are stored. So that information's there. It may not be complete yet. I need to work with John to fill in some holes there. But for the most part, you can access our financial information now, which was not easily accessible before. And then I did update the meeting archives as well, so that they're linking out directly to our Google Drive, and it's not loading there, but you can access all of the minutes and whatnot here. I've just been trying to streamline it a little bit so that it's easier to manage, because before I was hard coding in all of that information every month, and I'm not going to be secretary next year, so I don't want to leave that with someone to suffer through. So that is accessible, and there's a link to each recording in the minutes as well, and you can of course access our minutes from YouTube directly. We have playlists for that. The third thing I wanted to cover, which is also on the agenda, is subscribing to our calendar. So we do have calendar events listed down here. I wanted to point out to everybody, if you click view calendar and then scroll down a little, there's a subscribe button here, and you can add our calendar to whatever you're using. And that's really the easiest way to get to our events. We have all of the Zoom meeting links posted up on the Google Calendar. So if it's on your calendar, then you don't have to like struggle or email us frantically for the links and that kind of thing. And you can access them from here as well if you click in to the event, and then you can copy and paste the links directly from our website. So I just wanted to point out those things. There are a few other updates we're making. The development committee met last week, and we talked about some different ways to kind of display our development process. And I've been kind of brainstorming ways to do that easily. We haven't settled on anything yet, but we will be adding sort of like thermometer goals and dashboards to the developments page to kind of keep track of the new development process, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little later. So if there are other suggestions or ideas for improving the website, the board is happy to take them. I'm happy to try and come up with ideas to make it even better and more vibrant. So feel free to email us.
Okay. Thank you, Jason, and thank you for all that work you do on our website. We really appreciate that. Okay. Next on our agenda is we are seeking volunteers for 2 different things. The first one is to help populate and customize our demonstration instance. So we have a demonstration SIG, or we've got a demonstration instance of Koha that has been sponsored by Bywater. It's housed, I guess, on a Bywater server. And what we use this demonstration instance for is things like ALA or any other conferences where we can go and use, be able to demonstrate to people that are walking by just what the functions in Koha are without exposing live data and real people's accounts and things like that. And the other thing that you can use the demonstration index instance for is, I think Christopher and George have been using it for their videos when they're showing, doing training and stuff like that. But what we need is data in that demonstration instance. So you would be working with the demonstration SIG. John used to be the chair of that, but I think we're still looking for somebody to chair that as well. And so if you're interested in that, or you're interested in, if you're interested in helping to populate and customize work with that group, or actually be the chair for that SIG, send somebody on the board, you can send to president or vice president or info. Just let us know that you're interested in that, and we'll get you hooked up with some people that can help you get started on that. Does anybody have any questions about what that would involve or anything?
What kind of data are you looking for? I could probably give you some bib records, but
yeah, I think John said the bib records were the easiest thing, because we could do a Z3950 kind of thing. We will need some kinds of patron records, some kinds of acquisitions information. Can't think what else, we would all need.
One of the goals we're hoping to do here, most people, when they want to see an automation system perform, they want to see circulation. So there's a bunch of configuration that would need to go on, setting up the libraries, setting up the location codes, basically the type of work that you would do when bringing a system online for the first time, but within a very specific context, so that everybody knows what we're dealing with, because it's not a normal situation in that all of the people working on the demonstration instance are not from the same institution. So making sure that type of configuration is properly set and properly configured is very important. Once we've got that set up, then we'll take care of the population of the bibs. I'm thinking maybe 1,000 bibs, maybe 2,000. I'd like a number of bibs big enough to be able to showcase properly things like Elasticsearch. I want 2 libraries to show how you can send items between libraries, and how everybody's favorite things of holds and requests, how all of that stuff works. And I'm really hoping to get people that are knowledgeable with jQuery and CSS to do the Webpack customizations, because that's really where a lot of the shine in Koha can come in. And having a very well-polished OPAC that can do a lot of different things, using those types of tools, I think will be particularly important for us to be able to have moving forward. We've had this instance, as Rhonda said, for about a little more than a year, and we were hoping to get it in place for last year's ALA. Well, we know what happened last March, and so that really kind of took the impetus away and kind of sent all of us scrambling. We're still all mostly working remotely. The scramble is not there anymore, so now we've got the time to really make sure we do this properly, and we can continue to use it for purposes like what Christopher and George have done with their presentations, and we can use it for the demonstration as well. And if we choose to go to ALA next year in Washington, DC, then we'll have something ready and raring to go for anybody who happens to wander up and say, hey, what can you show us about Koha?
Okay. All right. So if you're interested in that, that sounds interesting to you, get your blood pumping, then just give us send a note to info@koha-US.org. All right. The second thing that we have is to help with organizational social media presence. So we have a Facebook and a Twitter, I think. I don't think we have Instagram right now. And we're just looking for somebody that can kind of, that can work on getting regular posts out there. We are, you know, if this person is interested, we can explore getting a copy of Hootsuite through TechSoup. But if social media is your jam, we are looking for you. We want to have, you know, get a social media presence out there, you know, promoting things like Koha, I don't know why I can't say that, COHthon, and, you know, our upcoming conference in McKinney, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Any kind of, you know, developments that we actually get into the system, we've got to promote that and get the word out that we're actually, you know, contributing and doing great things for the community. So if that's something that you're interested in, or again, if there's somebody in your library that's kind of might be a way to pull them in to getting involved with koha-US or something like that, you know, definitely send that name our way. We'll work with them to get them going. There's actually a third volunteer that we're looking for. The not finance, I do that every time, fundraising chair. We are looking for a chair for the fundraising committee. And if fundraising is something that you really enjoy and you're really excited about koha-US and what we're trying to do with the developments and getting the word out about Koha, and know something about grant writing or anything like that, please let us know, and we will get you connected with everything that you know, we can do there. But yeah, a chair for the fundraising committee is the third thing that we need. So again, send info at koha-us.org. And if you have any questions about any of these volunteer positions, let us know. We'll answer them and figure out what we can do. Any questions about volunteer positions? Okay. Then we'll move on to committee reports. The first one is conference committee. I'm going to let George go first since his thing is earlier than mine. We sort of touched on it already with the koha-thon, but I don't know, George, do you have anything else you want to say about koha-thon besides we need presentations?
I just submitted put the link in the chat again, and I'll send the email out again. We plan to accept proposals till March 1st,
Okay.
with the idea that koha-thon would be April 28th. So far, we have 0 proposals. So it'd be nice to have more than 0. We were figuring it would be, you know, 8 a.m. Eastern to 6 p.m. Pacific. So that's about 11 hours. So I suppose, you know, Christopher and I could probably spend 11 hours recording some videos and letting everybody watch us do that. He looks shocked. Because we can ramble on and talk about Koha endlessly for hours and hours and hours and show people, you know, weird crap you can do. But it'd be nice if it was more than just us. So anybody that hasn't done a presentation at a conference yet, this is a good opportunity to do a presentation. So, and there are some of us that do presentations all the time. It'd be nice to see some new faces. Like, you know, I've done one at every Koha conference except every koha-US conference except the last one. And that was only because we had a family emergency. I was scheduled to do 2. But Fred always is there, and Jason's always there, and John does them, and Christopher does them, and Lizette. And there are a bunch of people that do them over and over again. And so it'd be nice to see some new people jumping in. And, you know, I don't know if I only have a few people that I can see on the screen. I don't know who's here, but I know that there's a library that we talked with them last week at one of these meetings. You know, they could do a presentation on, you know, getting ready for Koha, what they're doing to prepare. You know, there's endless things that people are interested in hearing about. And if you don't think your idea is good enough, you know, none of my ideas are good enough, and people let me ramble endlessly, and everybody's nodding. Yeah. And Fred reads poems, you know, you can do better than that.
Yes, I am
So-
here.
Yeah.
Well, and that I knew you were here because we talked earlier. But you know, if you don't think your presentation is good enough, you'd be surprised. You have something to offer, and this is a good chance to offer that. So there's
George
the
actually-
link in the chat box, and let us know what's up.
And George put it very well. You know, I tend to focus my presentations on acquisitions because that's what we implemented really bigger than anything else at Kresge. And I thought, nobody's going to want to see this. Acquisitions is boring, and acquisitions is somebody called it at the Coeur d'Alene conference, the caboose of Koha. But yet I've presented several different acquisitions ones only to have people come up and say, that was really interesting. I didn't know acquisitions could do that, or I wasn't aware people were using acquisitions in this way. And so George's comment is spot on. Don't think that nobody will be interested, because there's always going to be interest in the modules of this system.
Just because you think that your presentation is weird or uninteresting doesn't mean there aren't other people that have something that they do with Koha that is even weirder or even less interesting.
And you
So-
object to my poetry.
Yeah.
I think this last year has disqualified weird altogether. You know, there is nothing weird anymore.
It's always great to see what all the different Koha libraries, how they're using Koha, or neat collections that they have, and how they've, you know, used Koha to showcase them.
Yeah, my problem is I think I've said everything that I have to say. I have to learn something new to be able to talk about it.
There's your challenge, George, or Fred. There you go. Learn something new. Okay. Yeah, so sleep on it, and tomorrow pull up that form and fill it out. So yeah, hosting a roundtable opens up a lot more possibilities. Michael said that. So yeah, if you've got a topic and you want to host a roundtable, just because you're hosting a roundtable doesn't mean you know everything about it. That just means you make sure everybody around the table gets a chance to talk. You don't have to be the royalty or whatever on that particular topic. Hosting a roundtable is how I ended up president of SIG. I probably shouldn't have told you that for acquisitions. So anyway, sorry. Okay, let's move on to the in-person conference. So as of now, we are planning on being in person in McKinney, Texas, September 22nd through the 25th or something like that. We will use the same theme of fresh perspectives, and we actually have a meeting right after this meeting with the committee to talk about more details. But just so that everybody knows, again, we'll be asking for presentations a little bit later. I think April or May, something like that. And then McKinney has, still everything that they worked out with the hotel before they have that set up. So we'll be sending out all that information as well. But since we voted last year to go to McKinney and then it went virtual, we're going to go to McKinney this year. And hopefully by September, we'll be able to do in-person stuff. Any questions about the in-person conference? Okay, more information to come. Next committee report is development. And that's Barbara.
Hi. So we had our first development committee meeting of the year. And we first started off with reviewing the new development process, trying to just make sure we're all on the same page about what the new process is. And so then we discussed sending out a call for proposals form so that people are aware that we have this development process. And we talked about perhaps sending it out like on a quarterly schedule so people don't forget that we're open for proposals. And then we noted that sending it out on a quarterly basis might be something that we would amend based on if we had accepted a development, based on available funding. We wouldn't want to be sending out call for proposals and reminding people if we didn't have any money to put toward something. We talked about updating the form, and I put that in the chat. I made slight adjustments to last year's form. Basically removed the deadline date that was on there and just put in there that the call for proposals is open at any time. There was a section where it said, like, is there a bug number associated with this? And the new process says you should have a bug already established. So I changed that to include the associated bug number, and then added a section that just said amount that your library or organization can commit to the development process, if any. And I sent that form out this morning to the development committee to see if they have any further edits to it. And if they do, we'll make them. And if they don't, then I guess we could go ahead and send it out pretty soon as our first time of the year and see if we get any proposals. And then let's see, Jason alluded to it earlier. We talked about finding like a thermometer fundraising type plugin for the WordPress website. It would show both like the developments that have already been, we have one development that's already been funded. So we'd like to put that on there and show who contributed and the amounts and color code it. So you could kind of see, well, who made this development happen. And that would be for the one that's already funded. And then for future developments, have it be there so it would show the amount that we're, going toward, how much do we need to make a new development actually happen. And basically we're going to discuss more about that at the next meeting. And I think that was the bulk of what we talked about.
Jason did mention the status of the one that we have in development, the development that we have in process. And I think it was right at the beginning, like it hadn't really started.
Right, yes.
Okay. All right, so we're waiting for that one yet. Questions for the development committee? Okay, then Heather is the chair of the education committee. Heather.
Well, we did not meet in January because our meeting would have been on the US Inauguration Day, so figured that folks would probably be distracted. And so we're going to be meeting for the first time this year in February and talking about all of the normal things. Everybody's welcome. Looking at mentoring new members, something we can do for that, and perhaps more templates to contribute to the website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions for the education committee? Okay. Then I will turn it over to John for the finance committee.
Things are going pretty well. Let me go ahead and bring up the finance committee report. This is actually the big month. This is not only a quarterly update, a monthly update, but also our annual update. We'll go through the regular report first. We've got 33 members in good standing as of the end of January, and we continue to remain financially viable. If you take a look at the finalized December expenses, you'll see the $4,000 that's paid to Bywater in support of the member selected development, as well as the end of the costs, all associated with marketing for the virtual conference that we had last September with the mailing of the conference and general stickers. Most of the income you see related to January is related to membership renewals or new members joining. The expenses you see were all in support of renewing our Zoom room and the corresponding administrative fee to TechSoup. A few things to note. We will be talking about the annual report in just a minute. 2021 memberships continue to be processed as received. Those of you that are not that have not been at the last few meetings, we're doing something a little bit different with membership this year, in that we're sending an invoice out immediately when you submit the membership form. And it's not automated. I actually have to go in and generate the invoice, and I try to do that within a day or so. But that's really helped to ensure that we receive payment a little bit quicker from those organizations that aren't necessarily paying through PayPal, but are sending us physical checks. And we've talked about ALA, that's been discussed, so the board will be able to get that in just a minute. Moving on to the organization's annual report. It was a bad year, but it wasn't just a bad year for us, it was a bad year for a lot of people. Our actual versus budgeted income went down 51%. We'd budgeted about $7,500. We only received about $3,700 in actual income. Despite that decrease, most of which was associated with the fact that we did not hold an in-person conference, we did see an increase in overall membership, though we failed to meet our targeted membership numbers. Despite that, what appears to be drastic loss of income, we actually did quite well as an organization last year, because we were still able to contribute to the organization's cash reserves, and we were able to make an addition, a larger than budgeted addition to the organization discretionary coffers through which the developments are funded. Most of that is not due to crafty accounting or anything, but rather due to the fact that we did not incur any additional expenses for ALA. We had budgeted a certain amount for ALA. We were able to bring in the exhibition space under cost because we went with what they call a small press table as opposed to a full 10 by 10 booth. And we didn't have any of the fees that would have otherwise been associated with the conference, including things like additional marketing materials, liability insurance, and a few other things. So despite taking a big hit in what we expected to bring in as an organization, it turned out to be a pretty good year for us all told. In terms of what's actually available to the organization in its discretionary coffers, when including the $4,000 that went to Bywater Solutions in support of the member selected development, and in consideration of the amount that is added at the end of the fiscal year, which represents income left over after all expenses are cleared, the discretionary coffers have around $4,500 in them. And so that's really good that we are still able to have that level of money in there. The rest of the report is just a lot of tables that really highlight changes of the organization from year to year. There are comments associated with each individual income and expense level. And the final pages of this particular report focus on membership, highlights year over year. I encourage you to take a look through this if you've got the time and the inclination. And of course, I welcome any questions that you might happen to have about the organization or its finances. Perhaps the biggest negative that happened last year was our inability to get 3 straight years of income and expense trends from which we can base our budget. It doesn't really effectively cancel all the work from 2018 and 2019 out, but it really means that we might not be able to establish reliable trends until another 2 years have passed. And it might actually be another 3 right now, because as 2021 progresses on, it's quite clear that this is probably going to be another year that is less than normal. And I don't like to use that next normal or new normal phrase, but it's still a period of transition. It's a period of upheaval. And we as an organization are likely to have be impacted by it. An impact that was represented in the 2021 budget that was approved back in December by the board. This is the annual report. This is the pretty report, if you will, but there's also the more traditional just numbers report. There's no prose associated with this final report that is actually distributed and updated quarterly. This gives you all of the information that you need to know with regards to the various income and expense categories that koha-US maintains. Are there any questions about the monthly report or the annual report and its supporting documentation? Without any questions, I'll just simply close by saying that there remain 2 matters for consideration by the board. They're actually identical to the 2 that were in last year's annual report. The first is the possibility of exploring an interest-bearing account. koha-US has enough money put aside that it could consider getting an interest-bearing account instead of just its checking account, which does not collect any interest. While that is a possibility, right now interest rates are so low for savings accounts that it's probably not really worth the effort to expend to be able to do so, but it is something that the board could consider. The second option is we've been established enough. This will be our 5th year in existence, our 4th with the budget, and we've got credit worthiness now. We're a stable organization, and we now have the ability to pursue a credit card for the organization, not so much to spend with a credit card, but as much as it is to reduce financial risk to the organization. Right now, we pay everything by check, or we pay it through a debit card, both of which are are more susceptible to financial risk and financial anything than paying with a credit card, in which there are usually liability limits built in. So one of the things we'll be discussing as a board prior to September would be the acquisition of an organizational credit card to help limit the organization's liability in the event that there's to limit the exposure to financial risk for the organization, to reduce the reliance on the debit card in particular, which doesn't have the protections on it that a credit card would. So that's the matters for consideration. I forgot to include those earlier. I again repeat, if there are any questions, feel free to ask them now. You are still always, of course, able to contact me at treasurer@koha-US.org, and I'd be happy to address any questions that you have about the organization's financial status. Thank you to Jason for putting together the new section of the website. One of the things, when we start applying for grants, they're going to want to see finances. Our website now provides them the ability to do that. So thanks to Jason for putting that together.
No questions, but just a comment. Brilliant as always, sir.
Thank you, Fred.
If I could stand, I'd give you a standing ovation, but then I'd be off camera.
Yes, thank you, John, for all the work that you do. Really appreciate that. The final committee is the fundraising committee, and the main thing I want to say about that is we need a chair so that we can pursue different ways to get money into our organization through fundraising, through grants and things like that. So if you know anybody in your libraries or another COHA library that would be interested, or anybody here would be interested in that, please let me know and we will get that going. Next is open discussions, and Christopher Brannon had a topic that he would like to put forth. I will just turn it over to Christopher.
So I wanted to talk about notifications real quick. Has anybody here, aside from us, moved over or was working with Bywater and moved over to the AWS method of notifications? I don't know what it's called exactly, but is anybody else using that AWS to deliver their notifications? So let's set Rhonda, looks like. The reason I ask is because since we have moved over, we've had a lot of issues. Yesterday, we've had like 44 messages blocked. Before the notifications were showing as suppressed. Ever since Google had their little hiccup with email, we've had nothing but problems. We've had notifications showing up suppressed, and we have been battling with Bywater to get this straightened out. And now we're getting these really generic, your messages couldn't be delivered blocks, things that are just not going through at all. And I wanted to get some feedback from the rest of the group as to what you're seeing with the notifications as of late.
Ours have mostly been fine, although I just went to open up our mailbox and we had a whole bunch, but they're mostly text messages, which usually that happens because someone gave us the wrong text provider. Like they forgot they switched from AT&T to Sprint or whatever. And we do have a couple emails. We've actually got way fewer bounces since we switched to Amazon. We used to get like the U of I would block us a lot, the local university, if we sent out too many people who had U of I email addresses. They'd decide that we were spam, and that was our biggest problem before. And we haven't had that at all since we switched over.
I did notice a difference initially when we switched over, but now Bywater has us jumping through some hoops, which makes sense. Things that needed to be done in order to be authentic with them sending emails on our behalf. But the messages that I saw from yesterday are just absolutely troubling and just kind of making some of us I don't know, crazy. Anybody else have any input?
I too am feeling crazy over the situation. I got an email just yesterday that one of my libraries had like 24 text messages bounces. And now we're trying to update the SPF record for that library's domain. Like the fact that each of my libraries has a separate overdues email is compounding the problem because each of their SPF records needs adjusted to include this Amazon stuff to make it legit. And it's just, it was fine and now it's getting worse, I guess. Like something set off their domain. So now we need to, as you said, jump through some hoops to get them back into the green. And it's, I don't know. I wish there was an easier way where we could just have like one domain and then all the overdues go out from there. So we're not trying to authenticate each library's domain.
Yeah.
I don't, it's frustrating for sure. And we've also had this issue ongoing where one of our email inboxes got deleted and then restored, and it hasn't been able to receive anything specifically from Koha since then. And we can't figure out what's going on there. I'm about to just open a new email account for that purpose.
Oh,
We're a single library, so we probably don't have the same issues as y'all do. And I'm not one of the ones that receives all the bounces and all of that, which is lucky for me. But the people that do have told me that they're getting, I can't remember what the phrasing is, but it's some kind of like error, conflict, something is in the subject. And so I asked Bywater, well, what is that and what does it mean? And they told me that that particular one was more like the recipient is marking the email as spam, or they have a spam filter, that's automatically looking at things and saying, well, that's spam. So then I asked if there was a way to like stop that so that my staff isn't getting all of that stuff. And they said, well, they could, but it would affect the bounced emails too. And so they recommended just, setting up the mailboxes, I guess, to, put those in a different folder or something. I'm not sure. And then I asked if there would be a different subject line between this conflict error message we were getting and, what does the bounced email message look like? And they said they would be different. And again, I don't actually receive these, so I don't know exactly what they look like, but I know staff has come to me and said, what are all these things we're getting? We're getting all these messages now that we didn't get before. So.
Yeah, it's been really frustrating to see this. Let's see here. Oh, I've lost everybody here. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why I can't see you guys anymore. That's weird. Anyways. Oh, there you are. Okay. Yeah, it's been frustrating. The language has changed for sure in the bounces, and I don't know if any of them are legitimate bounces anymore, or if this is just an AWS thing. If this is, I've gotten to the point where I'm just forwarding all of our bounces in a support tickets to Bywater, because we can't make heads or tails of what's legitimate or not, and what we need to act on. We did the same thing as Jason with the SPF, and that's not easy for some libraries to deal with. Some of you folks are working with like Yahoo Mail or Gmail just for your library email accounts, and I can't imagine if you get hit with something like that, how you're having to deal with that. Fortunately, we have our internal email, and we can adjust those things. I can say that our IT department can adjust those things. But even after we've made those adjustments, things are getting worse, and I'm getting concerned. I'm hoping that if you are running into these kinds of issues, that you are talking to Bywater about it, because I think we need to make a loud enough noise to say, hey, this is very problematic, especially for the smaller libraries, or this is starting to get out of hand, and we need some more clarification or help with this, because one of the last messages I got from Bywater is, oh, well, they could be, they could be putting into the spam box and not knowing it. How are we supposed to know which ones to deal with like that? How are we supposed to communicate this to our patrons when we don't know exactly what's going on, or why, messages aren't getting through? This has made it very challenging, and I'm hoping that we can all speak up and get some answers about this and resolution about this, because it's causing me a headache, and I can't imagine how it's making everybody else feel. But I've got some people in our group that I'm speaking up for too, that are really frustrated with the situation.
I do know that one of the messages that staff forwarded to me that had the error conflict subject line that Bywater said was probably a spam, that patron actually did come pick up their hold. So that was one instance, but so apparently they did get the message somehow. So I don't know what that all means, but
Trying to, let's see here. Trying to copy something and trying not to reveal too much here, but let me. I'm just going to get rid of the address that it went out for. But so this is an example of messages that we're seeing. It's in the chat. Basically it says your message couldn't be delivered. Try to send it again later. Like, we can try to send it again later. It's like, and it says, if the problem occurs, please contact your help desk. So essentially, the message is saying here, you need to do something about it. You need to try again later, which we really can't without going into each individual account and clicking that resend on each individual message. But even then, when I get a message like this, I seriously doubt it's going to go through again. So it's, I don't know. I'm baffled by this one. This one's just kind of, I'm pulling my hair out. So.
Do your messages say like email, feedback, report, complaint?
Do they say what?
I was just checking our account, and we've got a couple that say email, feedback, complaint.
I haven't seen that.
Oh.
No.
Ah, fun. And actually, I had another question. Recently, it seemed like Verizon started not accepting our texts anymore. Is that something similar, or is that a horse of a different color?
Maybe the same thing. I don't know. Several of these messages that I'm going through are texts, but a lot of them are just plain old emails. So it's really hard to say.
Christopher, I didn't see anything in the chat from you. Did you put something in as an example?
I did. Did it not go through to the group? Oh, I know why, because it went to George.
You sent it to me. That's why I can read it. Nobody else can.
Okay, here. Let me try it again. There we go. Oh. Oops. I think no, okay.
That went to everyone.
Yeah,
It says
okay.
everyone on my screen.
Good. I wasn't sure if the address that it was addressed to went through, and I didn't want it to go through, so it didn't. So we're good. Yeah, so that's just an example of the kind of messages we're seeing.
That's like what I got yesterday for these email bounce backs. You can click that link and do like a request to wipe your IP reputation so that it doesn't get caught in the spam filters again. I asked Todd about that yesterday, and he's, because I didn't know, like, do you put in my domain? Do you put in Bywater Solutions? And he said that you put in Bywater Solutions as the domain on that. But I don't know if that helped or not. He went ahead and entered that one in for me. I don't know. Is this? No, yeah. It's a slightly different IP than we're using, but it's very close. So I wonder if like there's a block of IP addresses that the Verizon spam filters are catching right now that need remediated.
I also wonder, I saw somewhere recently that someone was having trouble with text messages and they had switched it. They had set it up with the SMS gateway address, and when they switched it to the MMS gateway address, it started working, which I'm looking, all our texts are also Verizon that have been bouncing back, or like 95% of them are. And we're using the SMS gateway address. So I'm going to change that to the MMS gateway address and see if that helps.
So I'm not sure. I haven't seen a bounce back message we've gotten. From what I talked to Danny about this, and apparently the server says that the message goes, but the patron tells me she doesn't get it. So is that kind of the similar thing, or?
We have one patron that has been, we've been working with that kind of thing where it says that it went, but they're not getting it on the patron end. He's not getting any, this is emails for him. But it's just that one patron that's, I don't know, there might be a whole bunch of other ones out there and he's just the squeaky wheel, but we do have that one patron that is just is not getting anything from us.
Nothing going to their spam folder?
Nothing going to their spam folder. That was exactly, the first thing we had him check, junk, spam, whatever. It just isn't getting there, but according to the server, it was sent. So I don't know, it took a left turn somewhere. I don't know.
So anyways, that's my beef I wanted to voice in case anybody else was feeling it. And yeah, my suggestion right now is just, really let Bywater know. I have been very vigilant about letting them know the troubles that we've been having with that. So
yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. We can all, I'm going to go double check our stuff. I don't see the email that we get all the bounce backs from, so I'll have to go and check that now and see what I find. But nobody said anything to me, so I'm hoping it's good. Okay, we have gone a few minutes over.
I just put 2 bugs that I entered this week in the chat just to mention them. If everybody could look at them and complain about them, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
That doesn't mean you're required to, but it'd be nice if they got some attention.
27641 and 2766.
they haven't been out for 4 years. They don't justify us looking at them yet.
One of them is, there's all these new action buttons on the transactions page that allow you to pay fines and apply discounts and do voids and all these things on that page. And there's no way to leave a note. So that's all I want, is a way that, there's a way to leave a note on every other input for fines and fees. But there isn't on this page, and I just like there to be a note that goes with all those action buttons.
Seems
And then
like
the other,
another bug that that talked about notes. Somebody I filed a while back, and somebody was asking a question about it, and they were asking, why do we need notes? I had to justify why we needed notes.
yeah. I've had to justify that too to some people, but it's so much easier for staff at various libraries to look at a note rather than to go, okay, I need to go run a report. And then once I run the report, then I need to go look at this other thing. if it's just there in the notes, it's a lot easier. The other one is that when on the statistics table, permanent location is not recorded, location is recorded. And if you're using cart or processing, that means that cart or processing is recorded as the location at the time an item is checked out. It'd be nice if you could either specify through a system preference which one you wanted to be recorded, or if it just recorded both. So those are the two bugs. And
I'm surprised that one hasn't been reported sooner, because those adjustments were made
years ago.
A few years ago, yeah.
Yeah, the cart has been around as long as I've been using Koha. And processing too, I think. They're privileged locations. So I don't know why that's nobody's ever brought it up before. I couldn't find a bug about it. And there's plenty of old bugs out there from, 2008, and I couldn't find any of them. So.
Okay. All right. We will call this meeting a wrap if nobody has anything else. And then the conference committee meets immediately after this. So if you're interested in finding out more about the conference, you can join us here.